What's up, Retroids? Big Daddy A back with another Retrobacks episode. I recently went through a nostalgic phase and thought of creating a compilation of NES games I enjoyed playing that never got a sequel. That's right, these are the one-hit wonders. I'm not gonna rate these games for their graphics or sound since they all belong in a bygone era that will probably never hold up to today's gamer standards. So I'll just plain rate them by a fun factor. Let's kick things off with the oldest game in this list, Duck Hunt. The game was first released in Japan in April 1984 and was released as a launch game for the NES in North America in October 1985, with it also releasing in Europe 2 years later. Duck Hunt is a light gun shooter video game developed and published by Nintendo, where players use the NES Zapper in combination with a CRT television to shoot ducks that appear on the screen. For this playthrough, I used the Wii Zapper on the Wii U Virtual Console version of the game. The ducks appear one or two at a time and the player is given 3 shots to shoot them down. The player receives points upon shooting each duck. If the player shoots the required number of ducks in a single round, the player will advance to the next round. Otherwise, the player will receive a game over. If the player fails to shoot any of the ducks, the dog will laugh at you over and over until it gets on your nerves, and the only option would be to quit or to get good. The player is required to successfully shoot a minimum number of targets in order to advance to the next round. Therefore, failure will result directly in a game over. The difficulty increases as the player advances to higher rounds, targets will move faster, and the minimum number of targets to shoot will increase. The player receives points upon shooting a target and will also receive bonus points for shooting all 10 targets in a single round. Duck Hunt has 3 different game modes to choose from. In Game A and Game B, the targets are flying ducks in the woodland area, and in Game C, the targets are clay pigeons that are launched away from the player's perspective into the distance. In Game A, 1 duck will appear on the screen at a time, while in Game B, 2 ducks will appear at a time. Duck Hunt keeps track of the player's higher scores for all games played in a single session. It is lost, however, upon shutting the game off. Fortunately for the Wii U version, you can just continue with the session using the automatic restore point. Is it fun to play even to this day? Heck yeah it is. 9 out of 10. Up next, Urban Champion. I don't know if I mentioned this in any of my previous videos, but I am a fighting game nut. Probably my most favorite genre of video games. So it was not a surprise when I gravitated towards this game when I was a wee lad. After tasting one-on-one fighting gameplay with Data East's Karate Champ, I immediately became hooked to this game. Fun fact, this was Nintendo's first 2D fighting game. Hopefully Urban Champion will get some representation in Smash Bros. Someday. The premise of this game is to knock the other player into a sewer manhole. There is a 99-second time limit, and the player has a set limit of stamina of 200 hit points. The player has 2 types of attacks, a light punch assigned to the A button, and a heavy punch on the B button. The light punch is weaker but faster and harder to block, while the heavy punch is stronger but takes longer to pull off, is more easily telegraphed, and is thus easier to block or avoid. Speaking of defense, you can block by pressing either up or down on the D-pad. To dodge, press back on the D-pad. That means left on the first player and right on the second player. Now each punch costs the player 1 HP. Also, flower pots are occasionally dropped from windows, which will cost a fighter 5 HP and daze the fighter if they are hit. When a player is knocked off the pavement, they advance to the next street. After every third fight, the opponent is knocked into a manhole, then the player has a brief celebration where a lady throws confetti from a window. The goal of the game is to reach the rank of champion. Every 3 fights won, the player gets a specific symbol on the lower right corner. After 5 symbols are earned, they go to the next set of symbols, and after reaching 45 symbols, they get the rank of champion, which I never achieved. Sometimes a police car may pass by the fighting at any point, which causes the players to return to their starting positions. If the timer runs out, the police will arrest the player closest to being knocked off of the pavement, meaning it is a default win for the other player for that round. Here's another trivia. The 2 fighters are named Ron M. Hoff and Alan Musman, respectively, according to an interview in 1989 by Shigeru Miyamoto. Now, even though I love fighting games, playing this now, even the 3D remake version of it on my new 3DS XL, is somehow not as fun as I remembered it to be. Maybe because the fighting game genre evolved so much over the years that the simpler controls and premise of this game no longer appeal to me as much. It's just meh right now. 6 out of 10. Okay, now on to the game launch in 1985, Ice Climber. Ice Climber is a vertical platforming game where the characters Popo and Nana, collectively known as the Ice Climbers, venture up 32 ice-covered mountains to recover stolen vegetables from a giant condor. The first player controls Popo, a boy wearing a blue Eskimo parka, while the second player controls Nana, a girl wearing a pink one. The only tool they carry is a wooden mallet to carve openings in the ice above and to club enemies. Each mountain level consists of 8 layers of colorful ice and a bonus stage up above. Standard dull ice blocks pose no threat other than an easily disposed of barrier and platform, while square ice blocks with higher detail are indestructible, forcing the player to take another path. Hatched ice acts as conveyor belt, sliding the Eskimos either left or right, and finally many mountains including unbreakable moving platforms resembling clouds. The bonus stage takes place at the peak within a 40-second time limit and no enemies. The ice climbers often face trickier jumps and multiple moving platforms here. The peak is also the only place to recover stolen vegetables, most notably eggplants. At the top of the peak, the condor flies overhead. The game can be played in 1 or 2 player mode. The latter places Popo and Nana against each other in a race to the summit. Players may prefer to play cooperatively on the way up, but during the bonus round they must compete for the top. The inclusion of Nana and Popo as playable characters in the GameCube's title Super Smash Bros. Melee brought the game renewed attention, and they have been part of Smash ever since, well, with the exception of Smash 4 due to the 3DS's limitations. Honestly, I find the controls of this game horrible, with weird jump physics, and often enough you will experience jumps that would seem enough to clear a platform only to be short, even if the sprite seems to be on top of that platform. I believe in a simple equation when it comes to any game. Bad controls equals low fun factor. 4 out of 10. Finally, we have Balloon Fight. Developed and published by Nintendo and released in Japan and Asia in 1985, with the rest of the world getting it a year or 2 later. Again, it's another simple 8-bit game where the player controls an unnamed balloon fighter with 2 balloons attached to his helmet. Repeatedly pressing the A button or holding down the B button causes the balloon fighter to flap his arms and rise into the air. If a balloon is popped, the player's flotation is decreased, making it harder to rise. A life is lost if both balloons are popped by enemy balloon fighters, and if the player falls in the water, gets eaten by the large piranha near the surface of the water, or is hit by lightning. There are 2 modes of play. The 1-player and 2-player game, and Balloon Trip. In the 1-player/2-player game, the player needs to defeat all of the enemies on screen to clear the stage. This mode can be played alone or cooperatively with the second player, though in the second player mode, friendly fire is on. Each player starts with 3 extra lives. The 3DS Balloon Fight port comes with the download play option that allows you to play along with a friend that has another 3DS system. Enemy balloon fighters float around the screen and the player must hit their balloons to defeat them. The enemy can also fall into the water or be eaten by the fish while flying close to the water surface. If an enemy is defeated or falls into the water, a bubble will rise up the screen which can be hit for extra 500 points. As play progresses through the stages, the number of enemies and platforms increases. Every 3 stages is a bonus stage where the goal is to burst all of the balloons that float up the screen from the chimney at the bottom. Now the other play mode, Balloon Trip, is a single-player game where the goal is to avoid the lightning sparks and collect the balloons, aiming to move up the ranks and compete for the high score. The player only gets 1 life for this mode. This game is so popular that it is still available to purchase or play online today. You can get it on the 3DS and Wii U's Virtual Console, and you can play it online on Nintendo Switch Online. In the Wii U game Nintendo Land, there is an attraction called Balloon Trip Breeze that is very similar to the Balloon Trip mode from the original Balloon Fight. If you have a Wii U, you gotta buy this game and play it. For those who don't have the console, just check this out. In addition, the villager from the Animal Crossing series uses the Balloon Fighter's helmet as one of his special moves in Super Smash Bros. In the 3DS version of the same game, a stage based on Balloon Fight appears with the original 8-bit graphics. Pretty cool. I still enjoy playing this game. My kids even had fun when I introduced this game to them, so that is a testament on how fun this game is. 10 out of 10. Perfect. On the next Retrobacks episode, I still continued with my nostalgia and tried my hand on the original Legend of Zelda. Au revoir!
Don't forget to subscribe!